So that's it for the recap of what we're doing up to week 2, as well as your feedback on week 1. Again, we thank the participants who've completed the feedback questionnaire. That is always much appreciated. And now, very pleased to introduce Rudy Eggers, the principal author of the GRISP guidelines. These are, again, the ground rules for the Q&A. Rudy, welcome.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful.
Welcome, and can you tell us where you're connecting from and how you are doing this afternoon, if it is afternoon for you?
Okay. Yes, so I'm connecting from Nairobi, Kenya. I see that some of the other participants are here in Kenya or in Somalia or in the vicinity, so very much in line with that. I've been out of the immunization program for a year now, so it's a little bit looking back into an old program that I was involved in, but very pleased to be with you here. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. All right, so we have 3 participants who submitted questions ahead of this session, and again, that is the best way to do it. We will have, if time allows it, we may have room for additional questions at the end of the session, but really we'd like to focus on the people who made the effort of preparing written questions and submitting them ahead of time. So, and of course, I'd like to invite Jilmil Bal and Alexandra Karik from the course team to pitch in as well. But we really wanted to use this time for participants to engage directly with the original author of the guidelines. So the first question is from Tapas Nair, who says, I have a question related to something I read in the GRISP documents, and a very specific page reference to strategy number 3 on page 58, and a question about data validation of administrative data. And yeah, I see that Tapas is online, so I'm going to unmute them. And welcome. Are you able to speak to us? And if so, could you summarize your question briefly, please?
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So my doubt was when we do data validation, when we compare the data of administrative data with evaluated data, at the national level, we can do data triangulation, but at the subnational levels, like maybe states and provinces and districts, the EPI managers are not trained in data triangulation. So at what sort of analysis do we expect them to do? Do we just like sort of compare the data and see that, okay, as per administrative data, my province is showing 86%, but my coverage data is showing 60%, so I need to cross-check the quality of my administrative data, or are you expecting them to do something more? That is my question.
Reda, should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. So GRISP as a whole actually is very much targeted at the national level of the program. So while, of course, these strategies are applicable at lower levels, the initial attempt of the GRISP was really to strengthen the national level. So I take your point very clearly that triangulation of survey data with administrative data at local level is really difficult. And that's in addition to just the difficulty of bringing the exact numbers together. We know, of course, that surveys are, the smaller the sample, the less reliable they are. So in fact, a survey of a very small area, if taken out of a bigger survey, is much less accurate, actually. So in fact, doing data triangulation at a very small level using a big coverage survey is quite problematic. So what was really meant here is to use the survey data at higher levels, be it at a provincial level, at a national level. Some countries have got regions. So at that level and at national level, using surveys to actually make sure that you understand your administrative data better. So what does the survey tell you about your administrative data? Is there a way that it can lead you to improve the collection of admin data, because ultimately that should be your aim. Your aim should be that the admin data is of such high quality that you, in fact, are very that you trust it, that you rely on it. It is of good quality. So that is where we're trying to go. So the other example maybe I would like to use is, well, let me just step back. So the purpose here is not triangulation in the accurate number sense. The purpose here is to inform the program rather than the exact number. You're trying to query the administrative data in such a manner that you can direct the program using the survey data available. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the WHO coverage estimation process. So on an annual basis, WHO goes through a process of estimating the coverage of every country, of every antigen every year. And what they do there is really they put together all the information, all the data that they have together on coverage. The most basic is, of course, the administrative routine coverage that is reported by the country. To that, they add the survey data, but they even add other information. So there might be vaccine supply information, there might be knowledge about stockouts and those kind of things that they bring to bear. And from that, they come up with a best estimate. What is the best outcome of what the data is that you have in front of you? And that is really what is meant by the strategy, is using the coverage surveys to query your admin data so that at the end you are more trustworthy of it. Let me stop there. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you, Rudy. All right, let's go to the next question. This is from Mohammed Miro Salem, and Mohammed, you will need to unmute yourself. If you could tell us what you had in mind with this question, which we can see up on the screen. You need to, yes, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Regarding the GRISP document, page 33, 4.1.5, they say that the creating synergy among routine immunization, accelerated disease control efforts, and new vaccine introduction activities. Large-scale vaccination campaigns have the ability to reach far beyond regular health services. Those using house-to-house vaccination or conversing strategies offer an opportunity to review the vaccination status for all children encountered and to refer them for any needed doses. Additionally, through careful planning, campaign activities, and the potential strengthen routine immunization plans. My question was, if we take the household campaign like polio SIAs in Pakistan, there are few constraints, like team members are working in areas where no female volunteer available, or the areas where the volunteers with only limited knowledge regarding SIAs, they don't know how to assess the routine immunization. They are only trained for a couple of days to commence the campaign, how to deliver the 2 drops of polio to the children. And due to the human resource issues in Pakistan, like areas like Rahimir Khan, there's a district in Punjab, tribal areas in DI Khan, DG Khan, also the Fata areas. Here, where there is a problem of human resource and there is continuous shuffling of people. So how can we do this kind of thing, that people who are working as polio member, they guide them for routine immunization vaccination at kit station or at the outreach session generated by a vaccinator in the field?
Yep, you're breaking up, Dr. Mohammed, at least for some of us. Rudy, over to you. I believe, fortunately, we have the question in writing, so Rudy should be able to address it. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you again for that question. Am I clear? Can you hear me?
Yeah. If you could type OK in the chat if you can hear Dr. Eggers. All right.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so again, the strategy in front of you here the key word in this strategy is using opportunity. Basically, if you think about it, those that energy that we put into something like a house-to-house polio campaign, that energy can be harnessed to actually support routine immunization. So we know that the polio campaigns will go ahead in any case. People will be trained, people will go out, they will go to the furthest reaches, they will actually go far beyond where the routine program can reach. And the purpose of this strategy is to make you remember that the energy that you've got in reaching these outlying areas should be harnessed for routine immunization. So basically, you make the statement such as you have volunteers with little knowledge about SIAs or little knowledge about routine immunization, but know only about SIAs. They've been trained only in SIAs. Well, this to me is an opportunity for the routine immunization to actually make sure that the volunteers are indeed trained for routine immunization and not only for the SIAs, so that they are able to review the cards of the children that they meet, to advise the mothers on when the child should go for the next vaccination, and to prompt them to get missing doses delivered. So what the strategy is asking for here is really, if you make the effort of going out and doing a polio campaign, why not make the little extra effort of training those volunteers with the knowledge? It's basically 5 or 6 sentences that you need to teach these people so that they know how to look at a card and how to respond to it, and use that opportunity for the routine program. The whole key about this strategy is using opportunity of the huge opportunity of a campaign for the routine program. Issues such as difficulty of access because lack of female volunteers. In Pakistan, you gave the example. This is, of course, a bigger problem. So if you have lack of access due to the wrong vaccinator, then, of course, it is even the polio campaign that is not being properly done, because if the vaccinator can't access the child because it's not a female, you've lost the opportunity. So that is actually a bigger problem that needs to be addressed at the higher level. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. I see some interesting comments in the chat. So from Friday and Coma, thank you, Rudy. I appreciate your answer, and thanks to Nair for bringing this up. So this is about the first question. It is a huge challenge to have accurate data for immunization, even here in Zambia. Rizwana Miman mentions mobile vaccination teams by outreach sessions. And then Mohammed Miraz Salim, yes, as a PEI-EPI synergy coordinator, we're planning on it in Pakistan, also by sparing vaccinators from polio SIAs as well. And then Khalid Abubakar Aiza, in line with Mohammed Miraz, the SIA's team are used to strengthen surveillance during a campaign. Mohammed Kulu Farah asks a question to another participant. Mohammed Sheikh, could you define for me hard to reach areas? Tapas Nair says, I am unable to download the GRISP learning module from the materials section of the GoTo training control panel. Chances are you're trying to do this from a mobile device. You do need a desktop browser, or you can put mobile Chrome in desktop mode in order to view the learning module. Also keep in mind that the learning module is the course as it was run in 2016. We've made some significant changes and hopefully improvements. So having said that, let's go back to the third question. This is from Mukesh Kumar Prajapati, and again he is in the chat room. There are actually 4 questions for Rudy, so we're not Dr. Mukesh, we're not going to ask you to go through all 4 questions. We're going to go right to Rudy, for him to address or give some indications on each one. Go ahead, Rudy, over to you, and then Mukesh, if you'd like to follow up, we'll have a very short time to do so before we move to the participant presentations.
Okay, thank you again for the questions. The first question is about country examples. In fact, I do not have country examples. So at the moment, the GRISP was actually created about a year ago. The concept of a transformative investment was promulgated at that time. And I think part of this course is really to gather those examples of how people are making the transformative investments that change a country. So, of course, there are individual areas that do better on things like vaccinator skill training or leadership or those kind of things. But at the moment, I can't give you specific country examples. I am hoping that from this course, in fact, you are able to come up with those examples. And if we look at the last course, maybe Reda can help us. Maybe some of those people can give us feedback of how the work that they learned in the course and the implementation of their own transformative investments have indeed made a difference in their country. To question 2, how can the transformative investment be integrated with regular health system strengthening? And I would like to add to that the question 4, how it is linked to universal health coverage, SDG, etc. So, in fact, both of those questions relate to the relationship between the transformative investment and health system strengthening. If you look at it, the transformative investment, almost all are actually located in the health system strengthening arena. If you look at the capacity of the national team, that is true for the immunization program, but it's clearly true for the entire public health system. If you've got a strong national public health leadership in any program or in fact in the government, then that is actually a transformative. Strategies to reach, of course, are not only EPI strategies, but account for all others. Strategic planning, operational funding, health worker skills, information system, community support, all of those are really building blocks of the health system on its own, as they are applied here to the immunization program. So, in fact, the transformative investments are really the existing building blocks of the health system strengthening. There are some items that are, of course, more specific for the immunization program. We talk about, of course, the vaccine supply chain. There are other supply chains of medication and of equipment that other programs have. The only added issue with vaccines is, of course, the cold chain. Keeping the vaccine cold is different to other chains, but otherwise supply chain of medication is quite similar. And then the life course approach to vaccination is, of course, also quite specific. That is, of course, located in the difference of the vaccination program as a whole. So the vaccination program is actually quite unique in the public health arena, in that it is set up to actually reach everyone. So it's actually quite different to a malaria program or a TB program or even a maternal health program that has got specific target groups that they're looking at to reach. The vaccination program is different. It reaches everyone. So certainly after birth, one hopes that every child is vaccinated. But the strategy, of course, or this transformative investment calls for the expansion of that, so that the reaching everyone goes to adolescents, goes to maternal, goes to aged, vaccination of the aged, beyond that. So I must say the transformative investments are very firmly rooted in the health system strengthening arena. And that really puts it also in line with the universal health coverage. Universal health coverage really focuses on 3 axes: access to services, the quality of services, and the affordability of services. And those are really reflected in the transformative investments as well. It's not directly translatable, but actually in essence similar. SDGs, well, the SDGs, of course, are at a very high level, and the best way to look at the SDGs, certainly for health, is to look at the indicators that are being measured, and you can see which direction that is, that the intent was of formulating those SDGs. For the immunization program, of course, the the child mortality and the mortality as a whole, communicable disease mortality is the greatest issue. So that's the second. And the fourth question. The third question relates on transformative investments in resource-constrained settings. Yeah, this is always problematic. I know here from Kenya, where I'm working now, that programs that are underfunded have got a hard time actually in growing and reaching their potential. And ultimately, there's no real substitute for being resourced. So to some extent, resource mobilization is what is needed. But part of the intent of the transformative investment is to make you also think about the value, also the resource value of things like skills. So a vaccinator skill or a leadership skill is something that can be developed. It does cost money, but in many cases, it is also something that actually can be developed without a lot of money, without a lot of resources. Those skills can be transmitted from one to the other and actually contribute greatly to the program. Things like strategies to reach frequently don't need that much money. They need thoughtful analysis and innovation in reaching the unreached and the hard to reach. So it's more of a thinking process, an innovation process, than finding the resources. Back to you, Reda.
Thank you very much, Rudy. Okay, so those were the three questions. There's a fascinating, some great dialogue in the chat, and again, you are. It is not only allowed but encouraged for you to be engaging in this way. Alexandra Karik is on a shaky connection, but we're going to see if we're able to unmute, if we're able to hear her before we go to the participant presentations. Alexandra, good afternoon and welcome. You wanted to follow up on the question from Tapas Nair on the question of a hard-to-reach population. Go ahead, please.
Yes, indeed. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Hello, everybody. If I understood Tapas's question correctly, I somehow sensed that he was questioning reliability and maybe comparability of the coverage surveys that are widely trusted. I wanted just to add to what Rudy said, that we have to be honest and say that no really data source is a kind of what we would consider gold standard for estimation of coverage. However, for countries that have substantial discrepancies in coverage estimates, until the data, administrative data and population estimates permit more reliable estimation, population-based surveys may be, or should be maybe even, conducted more than once each 5 years, every 5 years, to permit really triangulation of data. So I just wanted to add that one. And I saw while you were talking and while Rudy was answering, also in a chat box, the definition of hard to reach areas. I would just like to add there that it's not just geographically hard to reach areas, that hard to reach areas are those that are also where persons are living in civil conflict or insecurity, or the ones that are resisting vaccination with strong anti-vaccine groups. So they may be physically easy to reach, but they're hard to reach because of their opposition, or where you have urban settlers or squatters or migrant workers or near the borders. So just wanted to add that we have to keep in mind that there is more to hard to reach areas than just hello. Thank you.
Yes, you.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
That's for me. That much for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexandra. All right, and for those of you who are listening or viewing the recording, there are many interesting messages and great dialogue in the chat. We won't be able to read. What we usually do is read the comments here. There are too many. So again, to encourage you to actually attend if you are able to.